Hey, this is Kerry Morton, and you're listening to Live and In Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and In Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Welcome once again to Live and In Color with Wolfie D and my man, Jimmy, across the street. Jimmy.
What up?
There in North Carolina.
Man, it is going good. You know, obviously in my neck of the woods, everything is okay. You know, the toilet paper shortage we were worried about has been figured. But, you know, still Western North Carolina still struggling. Yeah. But, you know, they're
get built back, is it? I mean, it's just like decimate.
Yeah. Everything's different, you know, and just, you know, they're resilient folk, us Appalachian people, man. We, you know, this is what we're made for is triumph and tragedy, man. And, you know, we'll get through it, but God bless those people.
We're living in, my man. Wow.
I know. And then Florida now, obviously, when this drops, it'll have happened. But
yeah,
Florida, man, crazy stuff.
Hopefully it won't. I mean, it's going to be bad from what they're saying. So, yeah, by the time this drops, we'll know. But doesn't look good. But what does look good is today's show.
We do. Yeah, it does.
Kerry Morton, the son of Rock and Roll Ricky Morton.
Yeah.
Your favorite wrestler.
Ever.
Of all time. And now you got his son on here. So
his little boy.
Complete.
It's all I need. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, but seriously, man, you know, I was impressed with Kerry, you know, and he carries himself with such, you know, class and maturity. Yeah. And you can tell that obviously he almost seems different than a lot of second generation wrestlers where, you know, I know that a lot, especially coming up in your area, we've always talked about this, how interesting it was for the fathers and sons of Memphis wrestlers, you know, Jamie, Brian, you know, that kind of stuff. It almost seems different now though with Kerry and Ricky, you know?
Yeah. You know, say what you want about Ricky and his lifestyle. I believe he did a good job with Kerry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a family man and you can tell. And man, what a really just cool individual Kerry is, man. He, you know, carries himself, like I said, he carries himself so well and he really gets it done in the ring and that cool stuff he's doing with the Southern Six and Alex Taylor and Silas Young and all that, man. It's very cool. I'm happy for him and I'm happy for us that we got him because, man, I don't see Kerry on any podcast. So that's a big one for us, man.
Yeah. That is definitely good, man. Exclusive.
Exclusive.
We don't get a lot of exclusives, but we have one today.
We do. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And heck, man, I don't really got much else to talk about today. I want to get out here and I got some Halloween stuff to finish up and all that good stuff. So let's get Kerry on the line.
We'll be right back after these messages with Kerry Morton.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, you know, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Hey folks, to get your official Live and In Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and In Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked, Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, guys. Once again, we are back, and you survived the break. And today, have a very special guest, as I always have special guests. But this one's kind of cool, man, because I'm going to tell the story here in just a minute. But this one, I know his dad pretty daggone well, man. His dad helped make me and Jamie kind of what we were, putting us over in a special event. Even his mom was involved in this match. So this is pretty cool to have my man Kerry Morton on. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, man? Doing great. I'm happy to be on the air, to say the least.
Oh man, it's great to have you
for a while, so I'm stoked to be on here. No, thank you, and thanks for the introduction. You mentioned my mom. I just, funny enough, I was just talking about you, and now we're making this come true.
Yeah. So check this out. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Now, I know Jimmy knows this story, but you probably do not. And a lot of listeners may not know this story. So I guess I was around 8 years old. I know that. And I know that the Rock and Roll Express had just debuted on Memphis TV, right? And I watched it every week. And I was a big Fabulous Ones fan. So any tag team that came out, like the Fantastics and all those, I was like, oh, no. Because I thought they were, Fabulous One wannabes and stuff. But the Rock and Roll Express, when they came out to Rock and Roll All Night. And that's Kiss, and I'm a huge Kiss fan. So that got over with me. So I wasn't turned off by them immediately like that, right? So I watched wrestling one day, and like I said, your dad and them was on there on Memphis, and then me and my buddy, we lived in this big apartment complex, and we had this area that we played in and stuff, and it was in Nashville, in Antioch, L.A., as your dad likes to call it. And I seen this group of adults on a porch in my apartments. And then one of the guys didn't have a shirt on. And he had this long blonde hair, right? And I told my buddy, I said, I think that's one of those Rock and Roll Express. That's Ricky Morton. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah. So we go over there, and like I said, I was young, somewhere between 8 and 10. And I don't remember exactly what I said to him, or I'm sure I said, are you Ricky Morton? And he probably said, yeah. And I probably was like, well, wait a minute. I just seen you on Memphis TV. You was in Memphis like an hour ago, and he probably gave me some shit story, but he flew in a helicopter or something. But anyway, so he ends up flexing his muscle at me, right? Ricky Morton flexed on a 10-year-old. So I was like, it was the biggest muscle I'd ever seen, and to 8-year-old little kid. And so I run up to my apartment, and I tell my mom and my stepdad, I'm like, Ricky Morton is down here in our apartments right now, I swear. They didn't believe me. And I don't remember if I went back down there and got his autograph. I want to say that I did, but I don't remember. But Ricky Morton was the first wrestler that I ever met in real life. And it's just funny how then later on in life, he's a big part of my story. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful, man. I really, really enjoyed you telling me that, especially with them being a small man and flexing a muscle. That's the biggest damn muscle I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I swear, man. It looked like a softball popped up there, man. I was like, holy crap.
It's funny, too. At today's age, I'm the young cat rolling around. He's like, he often says, I used to look like that. Your old man used to look pretty good, too. It's funny, man. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was my first experience meeting a wrestler, and it's just funny, like I said, how it all come about later on to be part of my story. And I'm sure you got, and this is an interview about you, man. I want to hear a bunch of stories though from you of. Man, I remember seeing Ricky, with his kids and your mom and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I kept trying to remember. Maybe you do. The first time that I ever met you, do you recall that?
Well, I was real little. I think it was in the Evansville Coliseum, if I'm not mistaken. Believe it or not, I somehow rigged you into getting me a Wolfie D T-shirt. It was the one small, I believe you had on your table. And I wore it to school the following Monday. And my principal's a big wrestling fan, and he kept on asking. He's like, hey, is that Wolfie D? Is that that the team that your dad used to wrestle in Memphis Wrestling? And I remember this very particularly, and I said, yes, it sure was. He said, oh, I love those guys. They were mean as hell. And I remember my principal telling me that they were mean as hell, and he said the word hell in front of me. And I thought that was the craziest thing at the time being. So I do remember that. You gave me a T-shirt. It was a small, it was a little baggy on me, but I rocked that T-shirt for all through my 5th grade or whatever year it was. Yeah. I rocked it all throughout elementary school. I love that shirt.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's another good story. So, I mean, and I know your dad's personality and stuff, man. And I know stories from, like, say, Jamie growing up with Bill and Brian and Kevin growing up with Lawler. What's it like growing up with Ricky Morton?
Man, well, you know, I get the question asked a lot. What's it like, you know, having your father being here? But, you know, biggest thing to me is he was my father. And that's something I often don't forget about. And he still is my father, you know. But it's kind of that bond of, you know, that son and father relationship of just kind of going on the road with him. I never knew anything else other than what he did for a living, which was perform and wrestle and whatnot. And so ever since I was a little boy, you know, there wasn't a babysitter, there wasn't that what, so I was on the road with them. You know, I'd go to school Monday through Friday right after 3 o'clock, I'd get in the car, we'd hit to the towns, and I'd come home late Sunday night, and we'd do it all again the whole next weekend. And that's just what I knew for, you know, years on end of going on the road with him, traveling, experiencing, you know, meeting all these people that grew up watching him and idolizing him. And that's something, you know, it's really, as I look back now, it's super humbling to be, you know, in the professional wrestling business and doing what I'm doing, and now getting to meet, you know, a majority of his fans and create my own fan base. You know, it has its ups along with its downs, but that's my biggest takeaway is something, you know, at the end of the day, he was my father. And that's something, you know, it's, what's it like having your dad as a professional wrestler, and, you know, and there's a lot of glory to that, but there's also a lot that people don't often talk about. It's just, you know, missing ball games and missing, you know, family events and not necessarily having a crazy social life outside of the boys in the locker room and the women in the locker room. That was my family. So, you know, that's something I often, I don't forget about. And I hope people, you know, that's listening, can take into perspective too of just, you know, this is a livelihood. This isn't a joke. This is a game to my family, particularly, or myself. This is something that we blood, sweat, teared, you know, the whole 9 yards, devoting our lives into this industry, this profession. So, that, you know, I could go on and talk more and more, but there's nothing ill I can speak about my father at all. There's absolutely nothing. You know,
and I wouldn't, even if you had ill will, I wouldn't want to hear it.
So, and then I would delete it.
Jimmy would delete it in post.
Absolutely not. You know, he's my best friend, man. Seriously, he's my rock. You know, he's my hero. He is legitimately my best friend, and we do a lot of things together. We're big into collecting and cars, so we own a lot of different, you know, stuff, and that's something we really bond over. And then hitting the road, you know, as of right now, 2024, he's 68 years old, and I believe he's just as busy as he was, you know, in the 90s and in the 80s. I mean, we're on the weekend, we're on the road every weekend, traveling up and down conventions, signings, wrestling still as a tag team. You know, we're with GCW here soon. It's really just trying to kind of keep up. It's not that he has to wrestle anymore. Genuinely, it's really not that. And I could go on to speak, but it's the fact that he loves to do what he does, and he's just not ready just yet. But you know, I think the time's coming, and that's something we can talk later on within the episode. But you know, end of the day, you know, to sum that one up, genuinely, my homie, my best friend, and my partner in crime.
So being a little kid in the dressing rooms, I could only imagine who's some of the guys and gals too, I guess, that you bonded with the most as a youngster, not as a teenager or whatever, but as a kid.
Sure, yeah. You know what, Bobby Eaton lived with us for years on end. So Bobby was so huge in my life. You know, really, I would do schoolwork with him. I'd be on the road with him every weekend. You know, he's in the same car with us. He's traveling to all these towns. So Bobby plays such an instrumental part in just the man I am today, you know. That's something I really, really owe it a lot to Bobby. But along with, you know, Chase Owens. My dad trained Chase Owens, New Japan Pro Wrestling star. Matt Signum, Jason Kincaid, out of West Virginia. Those guys, they really taught me that crazy edge of professional wrestling that I didn't necessarily know existed. In the backseat of the car, I'd get Ring of Honor DVDs and ODCW DVDs and Memphis Wrestling, and I'd watch these in the backseat driving on a little, DVD player as we're hitting towns, and I'd watch these guys, and sure enough, we're sharing lockers with them, and we're in the South, and all this good jazz, and I got in the ring before the shows and would wear their merchandise and rock with them, and they really showed me their tricks. And now, big credit to who I am today as a professional wrestler. I owe it to those guys, so I really do owe it to those guys for getting me to where I am, having an edge on everyone else, because I started so early.
Yeah, for sure. I was lucky enough, and I didn't have the family ties, but was lucky enough to get in at 15. So I know I had instead of getting in your 20s and then, you almost feel like you're running out of time, I had plenty of time to kind of learn, you know what I mean? Which is a bonus, man. But back to Bobby Eaton, man. He lived with a guy named Donnie Goodman for a little bit there in Nashville. And also in that same apartment complex, it was me and my family in the apartment. And then you had Jamie and his family in one apartment, Chris Michaels and his family in an apartment. And Donnie had Gypsy Joe, the midget, and Chris. No, Chris lived in a different, I just said it. But yeah, so you had all these people, and we'd all go to the swimming pool. And Bobby, man, was so good with our kids, man. He loved kids, and just, I can't say to the people enough of what a good dude he is. Everybody says that, but man, until you witness it, especially with kids, man, just an incredible human being, and he is severely missed, man.
He's severely missed, very heartfelt message that you just said there too. Bobby meant a lot to me. He still does. I have his wrestling tags hanging on the wall beside me right now, along with, all the stuff that he gave me throughout the years, wrestling boots, knee pads, limited edition, WCW prototype wrestling dolls that they never made of him. I have all that stuff. And, he plays such an instrumental part. I was just this weekend, I was at NWA, with New Television, and Billy Corgan, the boss, he knows, how much Bobby meant to me too. And literally, out of this crazy hectic day of filming, vignettes, promo packages, wrestling, dark matches, media, what else not, Billy made the point to come talk to me about Bobby in person, and said, "Hey, I watched this match of him here recently. What did you think of this?" And here's a mega platinum rock star that the national alliance that has all these guys, and he's taking his time to talk about with me or Bobby in a certain match and a certain move that he's doing, and really, that's just to speak testament to the boss, but also just speak testament of how good his work was inside the wrestling ring.
Oh man, incredible worker. Go ahead, Jimmy, jump in.
Well, I just want to say something really funny, because this is and I'm not going to imitate your dad at all, but I can hear him saying now, Wolfie D, what you got to understand is Bobby Eaton was my friend.
Yeah.
And that's just like the Ricky. But Kerry, and I'm not going to harp on this, but obviously I probably gotten it across that, your dad is definitely my favorite wrestler of all time. No question. From a child, I made people call me Ricky. I had the mullet. I had the haircut. I had the T-shirts. I bought the pictures. I maybe fed you a little bit, Kerry, through the years. But so what I want to know, and I've never heard you answer this question, so I was very excited for this, by the way. And I want to hear about the first. So obviously you're going out there with your dad. I even worked a show with you for Mike Porter at NWA Main Event there in Nashville one time when you were 10 years old and you were flying around outside, and I didn't know where you're going to hit me in the knee or drop kick me from behind. But anyway, I want to hear about the first weekend trip or first wrestling trip away from your dad to where you've kind of grown into your own a little bit. Maybe it was earlier than it should have been, or maybe it was perfect timing, but I would love to hear that first weekend trip out without your dad around.
Man, that's a good question. Genuinely, it's a good question. Here's something a lot of people don't necessarily know about Kerry is I was professional theater actor. Like I did musicals, equity. So I traveled by myself a lot, doing tours when he was on the road during that time. But, when I fully committed to being a professional wrestler, like early in 2020, full time as a full living, no more collecting a check from, theater, fully invested in professional wrestling. That came with, immediately my dad went online and kind of plugged me and said, hey, he's going out on his own. And we're going to Texas.
Okay.
And I was in Texas for a few days doing a few different shows by myself, young, didn't know the scene, didn't know the boys. Sure enough, I get there, and Manny Fernandez just happens to be in the locker room. And someone I can talk to and relate to, and we're chit-chatting, we're having a good time. And he says, Kerry, I need the guy that you're going to wrestle. He's not going to show up. He's helping booking. I should mention that. He's not going to show up. Can you do a skit of some sort? Can you kind of wrestle Hill as one of our babyfaces or one of our babyfaces is champion? He's top guy in this little territory or show, whatever it was in Texas. I don't remember details all the way. But hell yeah, I'd do it, sure. And I remember I wrestled babyface. I was notorious for wrestling babyface with my pops and being who he was, and I was trying to edge onto that. And I remember going out there, and the main event of this show was about 400 people out in this church. Hell of a draw. And I didn't say shut up. I didn't say none of that bullshit. I walked out there and I didn't say a word. I don't ask for them to clap for me. I'm not asking for their approval, none sort of like that. It was just my demeanor. It's a lot of things I took from professional theater. Yeah. So I go out there and this demeanor, and I remember this old woman looking at me, and she was staring me down like, I don't like this boy. I might have been a little flamboyant with my emotions or whatever it was. Yeah. And and I remember I did something I imitated, and I just looked at her and I said something. No, I just mouthed off to her without my words even coming in my mouth. Music still playing. And whatever happened during this, it felt like 25 minutes. But within 30 seconds, I had this room throwing shit all at me in the wrestling ring. I don't know what. I don't remember saying anything. I remember Manny Fernandez looks at me as he's standing by the curtain, and he's just nodding. And he's just nodding, and I'm in the ring. I got this glittery red tights on, my white wrestling boots, whatnot. I'm looking at the guy. Nothing that we talked about in the back was kind of thrown out the window at this point because the whole shit just completely changed. Yeah. And they're throwing cans at me, rappers. I haven't said a word. Seriously, I've not said a single word during the time. I might have played, I might not. But remember at that certain point, this was what I was meant to do. This was what I wanted to do as a performer, as a wrestler, of getting that ring, having that, I wouldn't say quote unquote chemistry, but having that feeling of that urge of I'm not comfortable, but I'm comfortable. Yeah. I'm not necessarily, you know what I mean? I'm not comfortable, but I'm comfortable in this situation. And, that I could go on to talk about, other situations, but like, it's just, when you get on your own, and seriously, to any aspiring wrestlers, when they start traveling by themselves and start, flying, and half the time we don't even know what the hell we're doing. These promoters fly me in, and I'm fortunate that I'm super, super busy. Every weekend I'm flying somewhere. This weekend in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Nice. But half the time you fly in, you don't know who the hell's picking you up. You don't know, how far the venue is from the airport. That's something that a lot of people don't. And you're like, I get questioned all the time, like, how do you live? And I'm like, man, you just got to go with the flow. You literally just got to go with the flow. And that's something, I can't stress over what I can't control. So hope, things can come out my way and they'll plan out my way. But if not, we usually find our way in a roundabouts. And so that's something I learned quickly, from my dad, and being on the road and going to all these quote unquote mud shows down in the South, and just not knowing what the hell you're getting yourself into, not even sure if you're going to get paid that night, if the promoters are going to show up still and get paid. So just, having this and having that kind of experience in and living that in the past, it wasn't really much to me. That was from that on, obviously, you sign stuff, you fans are cool enough to bring, memorabilia of your father, and you see it and hoot, and then you kind of carry on with it. But I hope I answered that to your extent.
No, that was great.
I was just thinking when you were saying about the people throwing stuff and then being in your element, you know, on more than one occasion, me and Jamie have been in fights with fans and near riots and shit like that. And it's scary, but at the same time, it's like, fuck yeah. You know, it's like, hell yeah. We got him.
I love it. I got him. I'm telling you. I love that feeling of like, hell yeah, you got him. Like, fuck. Like, and then it's often, I don't know if you've ever felt this, Wolfie, but I do. It's often, what else can I do? You're in a situation, people throw into that, you're cursing you. You know, I've had a situation where, seriously, chairs were getting thrown into the ring by fans. And, you know, I don't credit myself, and I'm not here just to pat myself on the back while talking on this podcast, but I don't credit myself as a heel that, you know, has to go out there and tell people that, you know, you suck or your breath stinks or your mama's fat. Like, there's so many different ways to proceed about, you know, I guess the demeanor and the way you present yourself and the way, you know, you walk around and you do motions. Like, the little things to me is obviously always the big things. And I've been preaching that for years on end, and it finally, you know, I'm not sure if it 100% clicked, but here within the past year, I feel like that stride has clicked of like, the little things is what I need to get over. Once I get those little things over, everything else is a breeze. And they're often forgot about. But I seriously, what you're saying, Wolfie, I love those moments when that shit's happening and you always think to do more. For me,
the only difference would be that the majority of the times that those things would happen, it would be a result of Jamie's mouth and something he said. Somebody. Then we get this started. Man,
Jamie, you're so good, Jamie.
I was just gonna say, so mentioning back to some of the guys that was around you and stuff. Now, I know, you know, Hoot and Ricky are both, they love the funny one-liners and the jokes and stuff like that and then the ribs. Tell me that you've had a really, probably more than one. You've had some good ribs played on you by them and probably by some others.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah, absolutely.
What's some good ones, man? I love hearing stories like this.
I don't think rib culture is gone today. You know, I definitely believe back then it was maybe gone a little too far from certain times. But the boys, we still like to have fun, man. And like, you know, I'm the young cat in the locker room half the time, along with, you know, for instance, this past weekend, NWA, you know, I could go on and just talk about that. You know, you got the locker room leaders. You got Murdoch, you got Trevor Murdoch, you got Aaron Stevens, you have EC3. And those cats kind of came up along with, you know, that crazy era, along, you know, with the older veterans kind of whistling out. But that's the way they were taught to rib and have fun. And
Yeah.
For instance, you know, your boot places go missing out of your boots. And, you know, some guys, and I'm just going to be blunt here, you know, some guys, how do I put this in a good extent? They're not necessarily, I wouldn't say welcome to the locker room. They haven't earned their stripes. Yeah.
Right.
And they often try to, you know, jump in real quickly when, you know, the ice hasn't broken. And so, you know, with situations like that, but there's been plenty of times. I remember, you know, here recently I had a big show and I left my dad at Freedom. I was like, hey man, I'm flying in. I flew in that morning. I had my wrestling bag and all jazz. And I went home real quickly, changed, shower, then back on the road driving to the next town. And, you know, he's like, hey, man, I got your wrestling gear together, all that stuff. I was like, oh, man, it's really generous of you, Pops. And he's like, yeah, you'll match Robert and I. And, you know, sure enough, and it was absolutely a rib, but sure enough, you know, I get to the town. I'm just thinking he put it in the trunk. He fucking left the gear at home. So I have no wrestling gear. So, you know, and here's a huge show. There's 1,500 people out there. I have absolutely no wrestling gear whatsoever. And he's laughing, and him and Hoot are laughing about it. And here I am, you know. I would let shit get to me by that point. All I could do was laugh about it too. I was like, I should have saw this coming. But you know, there's been plenty of times. I mean,
what did you end up doing for gear, bar and shit?
Oh, I made a joke on them, and so there was a brother that did something kind of funny. So I just I had this like colorful underwear. And I had some black and orange Nikes. It kind of looked like trunks in a way, like some biker trunks.
Yeah.
And I cut the waistline out and I hiked them bad boys up, and you could see everything underneath the sun. And I went out there and wrestled. No knee pads. little black wrist tape and my black and white Nikes, and I made shit work.
Jesus. Please tell me you were a heel.
Oh, no. So I was tagging with rock and roll. So it was Ricky and Robert and myself. And then, and Robert didn't believe me. Because Robert, he's a jokester at times, but in the end of the day, it's like, oh, we're going out there and wrestling this year. And I said, no, this is what I'm going to do. So I disappeared, so they wouldn't see what I was going to wear. And then, so right when we're in Gorilla, we already kind of, went over the match or whatnot. And I had my clothes on. So right when we're going out there, I walk right up to the curtain right beside Ricky and Robert. And I got these little biker orange, like black and orange underwear that I cut off the waistband. I got my wrist tape on. We got black socks and black and white Nike shoes on. And they hit the music, and I just dash up the dash up the curtain real quickly. And, you can just see they're laughing and having a good time. And those are the little things I think that, I often try not to forget about is let's have some fun. Who cares?
Yeah,
I'm going to get judged anyhow. And I think it's funny. Here's a quick story too. Is I was in town. I was at a show. Whatever it was, a few months ago or so. And this cat was like, do you ever care what people think about you? And I was like, hey man, can I give you just a word of advice? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, we go out there, okay? We wear spandex. We put baby oil on each other, right? And we wrestle and lock up with each other. I said, do you think I care what people think of me?
Yeah, right.
And he said, man, I never looked at it like that. And I was like, that, and that's the urgency of professional wrestling is, I legitimately wrestled for years on end, but it's something you gotta escape reality sometimes. Like, hey, this is what we do for a living, man. No, I don't give a damn what people think of me. Hopefully they'll laugh, hopefully they'll cheer. At the end of the day, we get a payday and we go to the next show.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Support for Live and in Color with Wolfie D is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code WOLFIE at manscaped.com. If my math's correct, that's about 8 million balls.
So how is the NWA? We'll go back to that for a second. I know a good friend of mine who passed away, Joseph Hudson, was good buddies with Corgan. What's Corgan? What's he like to have for a boss, basically?
That's an awesome question, Wolf, because I was just reflecting on this in the flight home. Seriously, a really good human being. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm not trying to kiss his ass. I'm not. Yeah. But he's seriously a good human being. He's very relatable, especially in the position that he's in. I mean, he's a mega rock star.
Yeah.
But he's not like Ricky Morton, but sure, he's close.
Sure, he's still. But I don't let that get to me. I know I have a job, and I know I have certain things to do, and he expects the very best of you. But really cool guy, and very relatable. Listens to you. I have a lot of creative ideas I throw at him. He listens to me. He listens not to just me, but to the boys. I don't think anyone necessarily is favorited, and that's something you often find in big scenes and big locker rooms and big environments. As you got your kind of favorites, the Stooges, I should say. Maybe I can say that on here, the Stooges. But that's not a thing. I don't think that's the case. And we've been on tour with them. We've been traveling with I went to Australia with them, to Canada. I did some other, all the state shows that he did where he brought wrestling with him to these huge mega venues and stadiums. And he sold them out single-handedly by the Smashing Pumpkins, but he makes it a point to involve wrestling, invite the fans outside of the little, wherever the venue is. There's a wrestling ring out there and a cool setup. So he gives it a lot, and it's tough being in the position that he's in. And I often think about this. I'm like, he's selling out arenas. He has 2 kids, 2 children at home, a third one on the way. He's public relations. He's always in the public's eye. He's writing new music, making new albums. To credit him, it's pretty badass how much he's juggling and how proficient he is with the things that he's doing. You know, we just kind of ended our deal on the CW with the NWA, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. I can't speak on much as a public relations guy in NWA, but I can say that there's something very, very cool on the horizon, and hopefully will be announced soon.
Awesome.
But, yeah. So, I mean, you know, that's maybe breaking news on here, but there's some really cool stuff on the horizon, and I know it, but I can't really mention much to it as of right now. But yeah, you know, that's something I could say on. And Josephus, just speaking to him, man, what a character. I wish I had broke in the time. I mean, I did, but I wish I had the opportunity to share the ring with Josephus, you know, in and out. I knew him as a little child in the locker rooms in Nashville, but now I wish I had the chance to wrestle him, man. What a hell of a wrestler.
What a hell of a human being, man.
Yeah,
dude,
for sure.
A good guy, man, and it's just so tragic. You know, dude didn't drink, smoke, drugs, nothing, and, you know, highly functioning, autistic, and then to go out like that is just, life ain't fair sometimes.
Yeah.
But man, what a dude. But back to Billy. If I worked for Billy, I swear I would like walk up to him and just be like, "The world is a vampire," and then walk away. I'd sing his songs to him and shit just randomly. I think that's what and I don't expect you to knock him. I don't expect you to knock him right now, but give me your true statement here now. What is his and I mean, I guess he had to be a wrestling fan beforehand or whatever, but what's his wrestling knowledge? And I don't mean, can he tell you what happened in 1985? I'm talking about like psychology, storytelling. How do you feel he ranks in that?
So here's something that, you know, I think about with that situation is Billy is very intelligent. You know, William Patrick Corgan, WPC, Billy Corgan. He's a very intelligent human being. You have to understand him, and I think that's where often a lot of people go wrong, is they don't understand what's coming out of his mouth. And it's not he's using big words, but he has certain visions. And I always try to put myself in his shoes when he's speaking to me, hands on, like, "Hey, Kerry, this is what we want from this match. You know, it's a get-over match. You got 5 minutes on television. Make the other guy look good. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're the future legend. You're the Riz God. You're the Kerry Morton. You're the ticket. You know, this is your match." In situations like that, and I can go on to elaborate more storylines and more situations, but I think a lot of the time, maybe people question his knowledge or his wrestling ability is they just truly don't understand what they're being asked of, and they want to go into business for themselves. And that's really, I really take that, you know, and I'm trying to say it hardly as I possibly can, but I think, and, you know, to knock me to each own, but I think he's very knowledgeable in professional wrestling, and he has certain ways that he wants to, you know, be perceived and be the product to be looked at. We did some crazy shit this past weekend. You know, we're a big faction. The Southern Six is in NWA. We're a big faction. We work for other promotions too, but you know, it's hard sometimes because you question, like, what the hell? Why are we doing this? You know, this might be a joke, but there's a bigger picture to things, and that's something I always try to think of often. I'm like, you know, maybe don't complain of this situation or bite my tongue on this one because I think something's going to come around next again. So I can't really knock him, and I'm not going to knock him, and I'm being blunt. I'm not here, like I said, to kiss his ass, nothing of that sort. I just genuinely think that people, they get upset maybe sometimes in creative or don't understand things because they just, quite frankly, don't understand them, and they won't take the time to ask them, "Hey, what exactly do you mean?" Because maybe, you know, they're afraid to speak up or some sort. I'm just assuming. But I'm one of those guys. I want to know exactly, you know, what it's like. Like, "Hey, this is what you have for me. Let me pitch this vision to you real quickly. What do you think?"
Right.
And he'll be blunt. Like, "I like that, but maybe we'll adjust some stuff." But he's creative. You know, some of his finishes, especially on these house shows we've been doing, he's creative with stuff. Like, he's like, "Oh man, like, what if you did that?" You're like, usually now when I'm at NWA, and I moved up where my agents, quote unquote, in a match are Pat Kinney, Simon Diamond, talent relations, head talent relations, or Dr. Tom Pritchard and Homicide and William Patrick Corgan. That are my agents. And that's a big deal because nobody really has that agents. We have a lot of other guys that, you know, are used out. But I think that's where I moved on. I progressed. I've gotten to where, you know, I understand what these guys are asking of me. And that's something a lot of people I don't think get. But when it comes also to historian knowledge, geez Louise, he's it's like unlike anyone. He really knows his wrestling history and tries to pay homage to it a lot too.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
Yeah.
I met him and spoke to him at, they brought me back for TNA's Slammiversary in 2022, brought me back as Slash to be in there, and he was there. Met him, talked to him, and what do they call Anthony LaCasso on there? What do they call him?
Danny Deals.
Yeah, Danny Deals. Billy had agreed to come on the show, but it hadn't happened yet, and Danny Deals hasn't made that deal happen. He was standing right there, so that's long for me.
I love you, Wolfie.
Maybe I can say something. Maybe I can pull a few strings here and there.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Hot tag.
Okay, thank you, hot tag. So I want you to explain this to me in as simple English as possible. So you're basically a trio, right? And I love y'all. I think, Kerry, Alex, Taylor, Silas, I love y'all. I think you're cool. I know you've had Ricky and Kinsey and James Storm loosely affiliated and stuff, but it's really the trio of you all that make up the Southern Six. So let me just kind of try to figure this out. Does the Southern Six mean the whole, like the whole part of it, or is that just a name and the trio is the whole of it? Let me ask. So I'll shut up.
No. I think it's cool, and not to insult anyone's intelligence. It might be just a name. It might be a trio. It might be more than that.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily know. We're just a bunch of Southern boys that are mean as hell. And that's genuinely, that's not a gimmick. That's not what you usually see on camera is us just amped up a little bit more than what we usually are.
Okay.
We're some Southern boys. We're mean. We like to fight. We're not afraid to fight. I got Silas and AT along with me. And so with the Southern Six, we have different kind of variations. We add some people too. James Storm, as you mentioned, Kinsey Page, Jeremiah Pluckett here and there.
Yeah, good.
Carson Drake even made a little cameo here recently, some stuff. So, it started in Australia. We all got into, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this on public, but I'll mention it. We got into a fight. Well, let me rephrase this. Silas got into a fight, kind of at a bar. This is when Silas was not sober Silas.
Okay.
And so, we're the boys. We're kind of hanging out. Some shit gets a little sideways, and we know we have to jump in and do some stuff. And it just so happens that after, I know the police are called. We're not on, we're literally in Australia in a foreign country. We're in a little town. We're like, we got to get the hell out of here. Yeah. And so we start doing, and I can't make this up. We literally, I got a bloody nose. My lips busted. AT's hyped up, and Cy was like, I would have whooped his ass even more. And I can't. And it's in the middle of the night. Hell, it's 1 o'clock Australian time. We have to get back to the hotel because we're leaving out at 8 o'clock the next morning. He said, "Man, that's some mean Southern boy shit right there." I said, "That's some Southern Six shit." And I was like, I don't even know what the hell he meant by that, but I was like, "That's catchy, man. That's
I like
Six.
that.
That's fire."
Yeah.
And ever since then, we have been running with the Southern Six.
I love it.
Championship Wrestling and NWA and a couple others here and there, branch GCW. We're having a lot of fun, though, man. We really genuinely are. So if that elaborates on the Southern Six, that's where I can maybe add to.
That's a very good origin backstory. I
love it. And the Molly Hatchet inspired T-shirts, I love that too, man. I pop for that. And I mean, I just look at the three of you guys and I can actually see it's like kind of like a Freebirds thing. I see that, obviously you've got Silas as Terry. You can be the good P.S. Hayes, and AT's your solid buddy, and
sure.
And he's the bumping fool, but I also see something totally new and different too, and I love it, man. I think it's cool. I loved when your dad was in the York Foundation. He had those different tights and had the little bit of stubble, and Tommy Rich came out. I loved all that too. So anytime to see the baby face, the ultimate white meat baby face, say be the heel, I love that. But it's just cool, man. I think it's cool, and I see a lot of future future, if it's not just with the trio, but I see a lot of future in that trio. So,
well, appreciate that, really. And that's something, we try to credit each other on, is we're not just, another tech, thrown together that, you see on TV for a few weeks and obviously they start fighting each other, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We're legit, that's something we're really stick to our roots. We're the number one merchandise sellers in the NWA. We have been for the past, I think, 7 months in a row, which is pretty crazy.
Nice.
With new merchandise coming out. And so it's something that we really take a lot of credit. We wrestle everywhere together. We're all in Tennessee. So that means we can all make towns together when NWA allows us to. But they keep us really busy right now. But we're having a lot of fun. We are. And we all know our role. And that's something that we take credit into, is we all, you can mention the Freebirds, but that's not necessarily what we shoot after.
Sure.
We just shoot after having real, legitimate professional wrestling brought to you up close and personal.
Yeah.
We live by that livelihood of, this is professional wrestling, but when you step in our ring, you're probably going to get your ass whooped. And that's seriously how we are. If we've chipped teeth together, we've gotten our asses whooped together as well. But at the end of the day, we all kind of come back and we know our vision and what we're trying to stick to, and that's what we're trying to bring back to this new modern era of professional wrestling. Is we still have old school wrestling fans, and those old school wrestling fans haven't forgot about that lineage of wrestling, and that's something I take a lot of credit into as my self-work is bringing that style back, along with this new whatever you want to call it style. I just call it professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So here's a tough question. So what would mean more to you? Would it mean more to you to get to the WWE and have a nice run there, or would it mean more to you to be a part of the NWA and elevate it more than what it is right now? Do you feel what I'm trying to say here? Would you? What would feel better to you, being a part of NWA and helping NWA launch itself higher than where it is, or getting to WWE?
So I'm going to mention something that's breaking that I've never mentioned on air before, really, to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I had some conversations with WWE and AEW.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm very grateful that they're very interested in me at the time, and I believe may still be. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to burn any bridges whatsoever. But I genuinely love, what the NWA is, with kind of that hard-hitting smash mouth wrestling.
Right.
I love that, and I love having that creative freedom on a promo and going out there and kind of having some fun with it. So, when I extended my contract until the end of 2025, December 31st, 2025 is when my contract will come to a halt, if I don't extend with the NWA. But when my first contract came up, WWE reached out to me. We had some great conversations. I spoke to some higher ups. I won't mention any names, but, and I just told them, I said, hey, I was still in college at the time. Billy put a lot of belief in me. And he was very passionate about having me and very vocal about having me in the office, in the front office. And that's something that, loyalty is a big thing. And Billy said, if you stay with me during this time, we're going to make the most out of it. We're going to run with the money. And that's something that meant a lot to me, having his word and having those kind of back. So, who wouldn't, at the end of the day, want a main event, a pay-per-view, and WWE or wrestle for WWE and having that, that global, I'm trying to say that global stigma, or just have people watch you and look at you. Yeah. I would love to wrestle for that promotion. But right now, I'm very content. I'm very happy, which is really hard for me to say because I'm never content in life. I'm never satisfied. But I've been going back and forth here recently, like, what is that word even to tell? But something I'm trying to. I'm happy. I'm cool where we're going. But no, I think so. I think maybe at the end of 2025, and I'm speaking this on air. I may bet on myself. I may go over that way. But I really love the NWA, and I'm very passionate about kind of staying there right now. But never say never. In this business, tomorrow I can get the phone call and I'm fired. And and to each his own. And I'll go out with a smile on my face. But I really like where we're at and what we're doing. But never say never. That's something, these partnerships and everything going on. I know there's been a really crazy situation here recently that happened within the office of conversations with another company. So, who's to say that I couldn't, or some of us show up next week on WWE NXT? But, who am I to say? At the end of the day, or Impact Wrestling, or Major League Wrestling, or New Japan. Who is it to say?
I'm gonna make a prediction right now. I would say right now that AEW would take you right now in a heartbeat with no questions asked. I'm just saying that right now, and I feel like WWE would do the same. I feel like WWE would have in mind of your level of progress right now, and I think they would plug you into NXT, and I think they would start you up running. The only scary thing I think about is going to WWE, and they seem to, and it's like hit or miss, and I swear every time I guess one guy's going to do it, and then the other, they change the name of somebody, and then they go with the name of somebody else, and I don't understand where that is, and I know you probably have everything tight, with your dad being the businessman that he is. Yeah. I'm sure you have everything locked down, trademark, all that good stuff. But the crazy thing is, to me, is I feel like right now they're probably both salivating over you, in my opinion. But I could be
humbling of you to say. I wouldn't necessarily know, as I had not really had any conversations with them since I've been on paper of NWA again. Yeah. But so wrestling right now is in my opinion, and it's at another all-time high with merchandise sales and viewership all over the world. It's absolutely just phenomenal. Like, the boys are getting paid, and when I speak boys, I mean by all the wrestlers and professionals. Yeah. I'm just being a little blunt, but everyone's getting paid. We're having a good time doing it. We get to travel. We get to have different opinions on stuff. As a few years ago, that wasn't the case. There wasn't a lot of offering, before AEW came along and NWA, there wasn't, WWE was kind of the major place. And if you weren't working there, then you probably weren't making an honest living, and you'd have to do other jobs of some sort to make ends meet. And that's something, what I'm so thankful for that AEW is, and NWA and Major League and TNA, I can go on and speak, has offered these guys, those platforms to elevate and really put all our focus into wrestling. So, it's cool. I really like what the products are doing right now, and I really enjoy, I study business law in school. I have 2 degrees. I have a business and marketing degree. I have a degree in business law. So
tell me
business law.
Jeez, so man. Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, thank you. So, I do own all of the copyrights to Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson. I happen to own the name Bobby Eaton. Which I'll never, that every proceed would ever go to his family. I would never take a dime for myself on that if something were to come up. But Kerry Morton, the future legend. My nickname's Riz God. Tickets is all in trade.
Riz God.
Process now. So that sort of stuff. And here's something I think I'm going to captivate a little bit on this podcast is wrestlers in today's time. Like you're in the back, you're brainstorming with the boys, and you're having fun, and you're driving on the road, and you come up with ideas. Like, go on and if you have the means, like file it, have that in your book, because there's so many ways to make opportunity. There's a guy in West Virginia. He had the saying, yeet, Y-E-E-T, yeet. Yeah. And he used to say, and I remember I was with him when he first started doing it. And I thought, dude, that's really catchy, bro. Like, that's funny. Like, yeet, like that was funny as hell. And he got it off like YouTuber used to say it way back in the day, 2010 era, and then he started saying it, and they got over in the West Virginia area. And sure enough, I was like, man, you should literally consider looking into trademarking that. And Steve New, great lawyer in West Virginia,
Stephen P.
happens to represent me. Yeah, Stephen P. New represents me.
CM Punk,
they went ahead and processed it. Maybe CM Punk. Okay, I was unaware if he. CM Punk's a great man. I really enjoy Phil a lot, and I can go and speak with him. But where I'm getting at, went on and proceeded that, and Jey Uso started doing it, WWE. And sure enough, brother made a hell of a payday. I can't disclose what he made, but off a simple word, off a simple, $700 trademark or some sort that may pay off in the near future. Yeah. So, if you got an idea, bounce on that idea, and that's something, and what's the worst that can happen? You told no if it doesn't work out. You try something else.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's gene. Well, I'm telling you. And so how much influence did your pops have in the direction that you went? Because I know I used to listen to his podcast. I mean, I maybe haven't said it already, but your dad is my favorite wrestler of all time. Have I told you that already? Anyway.
You have, yes, absolutely. I love it.
You're getting it. But the point of the matter is how much of that did your dad pave the way for you? Like say, hey, look, I know this. I wish I would have done this. You do this. How much of that?
Oh, a lot too. And, I think it comes with education and growing up and maturing myself and then giving him knowledge of things that he never really even considered. He's like, Brian, I wish I had done that, and I live by a rule that I try often to never forget is have no regrets. Or no remorse of like, oh, I wish I would have. Because, I might have not been in the situation I am today, with a roof over my head and clothes my back and not necessarily a lot of worry and living comfortable. And that's something I always try to think about too is like, I try not to, I wish have or like whatever it could have been. But he always tells me, he's like, that's something you need to really educate yourself on and be smart when the situation comes because you could be in the situation to help the boys in the near future. And that's something I often forget about is, those guys scratched our backs for years on end and put food on our table. And that's something I always try to give back now in my position is, scratch their back when they scratch mine. So yeah, a lot of things he kind of adds up that got me to where I am now with thinking and whereabouts.
And that's got to be cool, man, because, I was thinking of this. I was telling my wife, I was like, this is kind of my equivalent of getting to interview Dale Earnhardt Jr. because, in racing, Dale Earnhardt was my favorite. And in wrestling, Ricky Morton is my favorite. So now I'm getting to talk to Kerry Morton, which obviously is the son of. So I guess the one thing that I'm curious about as where do you see yourself? And I know we kind of discuss this, but let's just say, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. Wolfie, when you got asked this question in 5 years, what did you say?
Man, it's been a while since I've been asked that question, so I don't remember. It probably changed from day to day, year to year. I don't know.
Sure, yeah. It's cool.
I'll probably be 6 feet under in 5 years.
Oh, shut up, man.
Oh, man. Come on, Wolf.
He's eating clean. He'll be all right.
No, I saw that. I saw when I saw you at the Legends reunion, you looked really good. Junior, not just saying that on air again to kiss your ass, but no, you look good, and I can see that the work that you're putting in, you're really trying to progress and do that's awesome. But 5 years. 5 years from now, obviously there's a few things that I'd like to accomplish really in the NWA. One is being the NWA World Television Champion. I think that's something, that belt to me, in my opinion, that was the workhorse belt of professional wrestling of Tully Blanchard, Manny Fernandez, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson. There's so many platinum names that came along with that television belt and brought it to where it needs to be. And even in modern day wrestling, Tom Latimer had it for a while. He took it places. When I was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, I made it a point to take the belt all over the world. Promoters wanted me. I took that belt everywhere. I defended it. I brought, I'd like to say I brought a lot of prestige to that championship. In all due time, I'll find out if I really did or if I'm just thinking of that now. But, promotions really enjoyed that. They really enjoyed having the NWA belt on their show. And that's something I thought. And so that's something I really love. I like to win the NWA World Television belt. And then who wouldn't want to be, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the man, the ticket, the front of the poster, the marketing guy. That's what I think about. That's number one. I would love to do that is, become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Whether it's one night, that belt means a lot. It really does. From my father never winning it.
Technically he did.
He won it once. He won it once.
Daggone it.
He did.
He tried to pull some
never
crap with
really
it.
Having that public run with it.
Right.
Never having that motive of the pat in the back or the fans accrediting him because, he changes, with all the time. I could go and tell that story, but I'll let him do that himself when he comes on the air. But that's something that means a lot. And then after that, the sky is high. I really love where I'm at right now in position, but there's a lot of maturing I still have to do, and there's a lot more things I'd like to do. But, I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, who wouldn't want to main event a WWE pay-per-view at least once in their lifetime? So,
and that is that is not a prediction. That is a spoiler, folks. So.
And hey, man, you're an intelligent kid, man. This has been a really cool conversation, and I'm glad we had you on, man. Good luck to you with NWA. Tell your father I love him, and tell Billy Corgan he owes me an interview. Or anybody else from the NWA?
Silas, AT. Please.
Okay, Silas AT. I can make those strings go. NWA gave us approval that we're happily can do your podcast, so I'm going to let the guys know.
Yeah, that's important.
They will happily join on air. But, guys, thanks for having me. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death.
No.
My thoughts, but I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for having me here.
I appreciate you coming on again. We really appreciate it, man. So, like I said, intelligent kid, man. I think you're going to do big things, man. You got a good head on your shoulders. Jimmy, we will be right back with Ask Wolfie D Anything.
All right, DJ, hit the music. All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie D Anything, and man, oh man, Kerry, what a cool interview that guy is, really.
Yeah, smart kid, man. Like I said, he's got his head on straight, and he's intelligent, and, you made reference at the beginning in the introduction about, second generation wrestlers, and yeah, definitely, he's cast from a different mold than most of the ones I know. So that's a good thing. That's a compliment. And great interview, man. Like I said, he's smart.
Yeah, very talented individual. I see huge things for him. He carries himself in a great professional manner, and I know he probably cuts up some, but you can tell that he's, like you said, he's got a great head on his shoulders. So, and I'm just stoked because, like I said in the interview, that's like me talking to Dale Jr., man. But honestly, I'm 20 times the wrestling fan than I ever was a NASCAR fan. So it's even more important. So, Kerry, thank you. Ricky was one of our early interviews. And I think Kerry showed up and really had a great.
Tell Kerry that when his dad was on, that was, like you just said, early on. And Ricky gave us 20 minutes?
30 maybe at most. Yeah.
If you're still listening, Kerry, or if Ricky's listening, you owe me about 40 more minutes.
Yeah. Part 2. bring Hoot with you too, buddy.
Yeah, bring Hoot.
We'll get 20 out of him too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do have some good ones, but first off, I want to say this. You all have heard us and listened to us and heard the struggle that it has been to get subscribers on YouTube. As far as the plays and the views and stuff, they're getting there. But, our downloads have always been very strong, and that's the bread and butter of the team here. But YouTube has been that one battle. But man, what a long, strange trip it's been. We finally made 1,000 subscribers, and I want to thank 2 people. If you're out there listening, thank you for following us and subscribing. Tommy Craig and Crystal Vansley. I'm not sure which one of you hit 1,000 or 999, but those are 2 names that I want to go out of my way to thank, because they basically came in around the same time as each other. So I'm not sure which one of you came in and became 1,000 on the dot, but thank you all both. Incredible. We really appreciate it. And we've got some great stuff planned, and just keep an eye on our YouTube. That's very cool. So just definitely want to thank all y'all, every one of you who click subscribe on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Now there's probably about 4,000 more that need to click it.
Yeah.
But we won't get into that. But anyway, yeah. We'll get you soon enough. But we do have some cool questions, like I said. And let's go ahead and start with this one. So from Dave's channel 747 on YouTube, he asks, Wolfie, you worked for NWA New Jersey back in 1996 and was on a card. Yeah, that's what he says.
All right.
You were on a card with Jamie against Danny Inferno and Ace Darling. Okay. First off, how were they to work with? And then how was it working in Dirty Jersey?
Oh, God. Man, I remember working with them. I know that it happened, and I know they're both, easy to work with. I know that. Yeah. Ace I was actually on his show, right? Mike Maldonado, is that how you say it?
Mike Maraldo.
Yeah. They're great to work with. I actually don't have a recollection of the show, and I've worked in Jersey more than once. So yeah, I mean, it's always cool to go up that way. I'm just really trying to think when that was. I actually, if this person could follow up. No, because I think I was by myself on that. So yeah, I just don't have a recollection of the show, and I apologize for that. But I'm sure it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. I do know those two are easy to work with. I can answer that part of it. Very easy to work with.
Yeah. And Dave follows up with this. He says, God, that smell is awful when you drive 95 south at the New York, New Jersey border.
That is true. That is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, but Nashville could smell, especially over near the stadium when the water, what I mean? It would get that funky lake smell or river smell. And I mean, that all that kind of stuff can smell if you're not careful.
Right. And I think that little particular area that he's talking about has got a lot of like factory type stuff that's, letting off a lot of shit into the air. So
gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, Dave, thank you. I think Dave followed us over from Randy's channel, so we appreciate you, Dave. I think Dave commented on some of the videos that you've been on with Randy. So cool. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I think that's who Dave is, but thank you, Dave, for the question. I think that was a great answer, Wolfie. So the next one is from Big Lil Wayne 7050. And that is also on YouTube. And he's a cantankerous gentleman. Let's just say that. He doesn't always, let's just say he calls it like he sees it. So I appreciate, we appreciate you as a listener, man. But here's a good question. I think I've kind of asked you this maybe on the side before, but I like this. He says, rather than wrestling, if Jamie was the manager for PG-13, who do you think would have been a good fit to be your partner? Okay. He says, I personally think Brian Lee would have been excellent, and JC Ice would be on the manager Mount Rushmore had he stayed working in that capacity.
I don't know that. I mean, me and Brian Lee clicked as a team really well, but I don't believe in that gimmick. I think the neutral gimmick was perfect for me and him. I don't think the PG-13 gimmick would have been Brian would have fit there. Now, I was going to say, and when you said Brian, I thought you were going to finish with Christopher Lawler. Yeah. And that's who I would say, like right off the bat, that would have. Can you imagine us three?
Oh my God! Dear Lord.
Yeah, that probably would have been pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, because that would have been crazy. I mean, really, and it's not hard to imagine Brian in that role, obviously, because of Too Cool, right? And putting y'all together, man. Whoo-wee, that.
And me and Brian have been a tag team at different times, and we always meshed well together as far as that goes. But having, we never had it where it's like we were a gimmick together,
Yeah. No, I like that. And, it's funny because, I thought you were also maybe going to say Armstrong, and obviously, Road Dogg
tagged together as well,
Yeah. And Road Dogg would have worked well in that position as well, too. Yeah. Especially when you look at what he became in DX and stuff. Right. Would have been perfect. And I think you're right on the Brian Christopher one for sure. I think that one is wow. When those things pop up in your mind, it's like, oh my God, that would have been incredible. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think that's great.
The thing is that, if that would have went further than say Memphis, then I'd have had 2 heat magnets with me.
Oh, seriously.
God bless them.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, okay. All right. Well, our third and final question of the day is from Michael Hauser. And I'm going to modify the question a little bit. So he asked, have you ever been in any movies or TV shows? And we know you've done some of the, some of the true crime deals that they filmed in Knoxville. I know you did the Joe Kenta, and then I know you've done another one, and were the really cool one. But I think I would like to modify this, and we've even talked about this between ourselves as well. But do you think you could be in movies and TV shows at this moment? And do you think there was a time that you could have pivoted to that and it would have been good for you?
I mean, obviously it's one of those things that I personally believe I have the talent to do stuff like that.
Right.
It's just if somebody, wants to put their faith in you to do it,
Right.
When I did the Joe Kenta Homicide Hunter, the producer, director guy, whatever, the director, he, I wasn't even supposed to have a speaking role, but he gave me one, and he loved my voice. He said that. He's like, your voice, dude, man, and he was like, I want to use you more. And, that just never came about for whatever reason. But, I think I have the talent for it, but, it's just one of those things. And look at cash flow. Brother, in the business, I went further than he did, but he's working with Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
For an episode. So, you never know, man. Hollywood and entertainment business always say right place, right time.
Yeah. And, my son is really big time into film. He's about to graduate high school and go to MTSU for film because he's really into, doing that. And, and I said, well, is that meaning you're wanting to move to LA? And he was like, no, Dad, there's movies making in Nashville. There people are doing movies in Atlanta. There's movies being made everywhere, and there's people that are making movies everywhere.
They're moving out of California because of the taxes or
very oppressive tax rate. So really, movies almost have come to you now. And if there's a movie producer, writer, booker, whatever you call it, I do think it would be cool to see you, because you could easily do that. I feel like, it would be something that would suit you. You have the charisma to do it. And you also have, you're already on your path of getting your look going again. Yeah. And I think it would be a no-brainer.
The hardest part for me would be just like in wrestling, when somebody tries to give me a script and do stuff word for word. So it would have to be in a capacity where I was able to ad-lib a little bit. To me, that just seems so hard to memorize. I watch movies or TV shows or whatever, and I'm thinking, man, how did they remember this? And then they got to do it another take and another take and another take. And especially like long scenes where there's a lot of dialogue. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Oh, bro. In high school, I literally went out for the school play, and it was The Sound of Music, right? This is a rib. But I went out for the play, and I wanted just like a small part just to do it, to get out of class, And I wound up getting the main male role. and I'm like, oh, my God, I've got to memorize. I've got to sing. I've got to do all this stuff. And it was up to the point that I was at that, and they were like sitting with me trying to cram the words into my brain. And then that turned into me doing others. But that is tough, man, when you're stuck to a script and you've got that dialogue, and the dialogue's important, and it's the way they've written it, and they really want you to say it that way. And then, man, so I would hope that they would allow for some kind of, but we're kind of thinking.
I know that actors ad lib sometimes. I know they do.
Yeah.
Even on that Joe Kenta, the main guy, he was kind of pitching me different lines. What came through at the end wasn't, obviously we had more than one take, and he'd say it a different way or even a few different words. And at first it kind of threw me because I'm expecting him to say exactly what I thought he was going to say before I threw my line out there, but could have been his veteran way of testing the rookie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think stunned them all.
Yeah. And that is one thing that you would come into that, probably cash flow has some of that as well. In wrestling, you learn that, don't trust anybody, right? That's one thing. And that's probably something that's very prevalent in Hollywood as well. But, you would have that business mindset going into it that would probably definitely suit you well for that business. So anyway, movie producers, holler at your boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's all I got. That's all I got.
It's a good round of questions. But, so great episode. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, NWA, for, from what Kerry says, everybody in NWA's got the green light to come on. So that's good for us and good for the listeners. So thank you, National Wrestling Alliance.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hopefully we'll have Billy on soon for that.
Yeah. Great. Be great. The world is a vampire. All right, guys, tune in next week. Have another great show for you. Thanks for listening.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices, and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hey, it's the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze. Now I'm inviting all of y'all to join me on my brand new podcast, Turning Up the Heat with the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and join me. I'll be covering all the events of the day, global, national, pop culture, movies, gaming, whatever sounds interesting. But I'll also be playing some awesome skating shuffle music from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Anything that has a good beat, I'm going to be playing it. You can rest assured. Come on over, TUTHradio.com. The podcast is on every major podcast platform. See you then.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WLFE. I'm on Instagram at Warren Wolf 13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap
for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color. Don't rush your mother, utilize a hubcap unlike any other. Back in the day, I was N-O-D, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip-hopping. Been doing it like this since 92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.